Temporary visas surge by nearly 500,000 people. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's look at this press release from Buyers discussing the surge in temporary visa holders here in Australia. Now, the reason why this is important, 500,000 additional people coming to Australia, even if it's only temporary, is going to put extra demand on rental properties, particularly student accommodation and housing and inner city apartments, I'd argue. And well, we kind of have a little bit of a rental crisis at the moment, particularly here in Brisbane. So let's check this out. Australia's rapid rebound in temporary visa holders will help to redress balances in the labour market, but also is going to add substantially to the rental crisis, according to Peter Wargent, co-founder of Australia's first national marketplace for buyers agents, Buyers. Mr. Wargent said, the number of temporary visa holders surged by more than 500,000 higher over the year to September 22, rising to 2.15 million from 1.64 million a year earlier. So it's returning back to normal, everyone. This is what we all expected. This is what we wanted. But you've got to also remember, this all adds support to the housing industry. It's great to have students, visitors, working holiday makers, and other temporary visa holders coming back to Australia. And in aggregate, this new supply will go some of the way to bringing labour force capacity constraints back into balance. The Reserve Bank has also cooled demand in the Australian economy through lifting interest rates. Of course, a substantial part of the increase was for visitor visas, which have rebounded from just 39,000 a year earlier to 271,000. But it's also great to see a strong year-on-year increase in working holiday visas from 30,000 to 72,000 and in international student visas from 318 to 369,000. These numbers have been held back by expensive flights, but at least they're trending higher now. And we can see here, it's going right back. And where are we at? There you go. We're 2018 levels, roughly, guys. So we're back to pre-COVID, pretty much. To date, the rebound in permanent and skilled migrants has been relatively modest, and this trend is only likely to gather pace in 2023. But the temporary visa holder figures, excluding visitors, have broadly returned to pre-pandemic levels, with further increases likely next year, he said. So student numbers are lower than 2019. Buyers CEO Doran Peleg said that for now, the number of international students in Australia is well down on pre-COVID levels. In the September quarter of 2019, the number of international students' temporary visas was more than 250,000 higher at 684,000, compared to the equivalent figure of 369,000 in 2022. So we've got a lot of room to move there in that sector, guys. There's been a massive increase in offshore visa applications in 2022, but also a strong increase in refusals for offshore applications. Previously, we saw very high numbers of international students from China, but these numbers have been lower over recent times. We expect the student numbers to rise over the period ahead, which will be a positive for redressing labour shortages, but also add significantly to the demand for rental property, he said. Yeah, that's something we all have to be aware of, everyone. Oh boy, and you've got the Greens calling for things like rent freezes. This is a nightmare. That's just going to limit supply. You want people investing in property. You want the property sector growing. Buyers Buyer co-founder Peter Wargent said that there was no end in sight for the rental crisis, but there were signs of rental demand shifting back towards the inner and middle ring suburbs of Sydney and Melbourne, away from the outer suburban and regional markets. Mr. Wargent said the pandemic period saw a dramatic movement outwards in rental demand, away from density. We also saw a significant decline in the average household size. This was a rational response to a pandemic, with tenants seeking more space, with less demand for shared housing, and high-rise unit blocks with shared facilities including lifts. While the movements have only been gradual, there has been some softening in demand in lifestyle and hinterland areas. Some outer suburban housing estates are also struggling to cope with the additional traffic on the roads with many commuters shunning public transport options. This may reduce demand for some outer suburban rentals. Most new arrivals in Australia are renters, and mostly they arrive in the hearts of Sydney and Melbourne. So the bulk of the increase in rental demand over the coming couple of years is set to be in those two capital cities, he said. So there we go, a 500,000 increase in temporary visas. Let's have a talk about this one. Now, student numbers are nowhere near where they were. They've still got another 300,000 to increase, but you've got temporary visa holders are right back up there at pre-COVID levels. So life is returning to normal. This is just going to, well, hopefully it won't exacerbate the rental crisis in the regions, but will start to increase the rental costs in the inner cities, which did take a big hit as people were fleeing the cities and a lot of young people were moving home. But all of this is additional support for the housing sector. So if you're there on the sidelines hoping for a cataclysmic fall as interest rates go up, this is another thing to counter that narrative. So we've got to keep it all in mind. What do you reckon, everyone? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one. I think buyers are on the money here with what they're putting out. It's something to keep an eye on. As always, thanks for watching. Check out my other channels, HeiseBim and HeiseSays International, for other topics I discuss. And if you want to support the channel, you can financially on YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links, buying our pocket squares, or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode of HeiseSays. Bye for now.